Okay, middle school. I'd like to call this RSU 25 school board meeting to order. March 2023. You'd all please join with me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So I understand that Abby will be joining us eventually on Zoom. So we will be doing everything by a roll call vote. And we
Hi, guys.
with our attendance and roll.
Mr. Foster.
I am here.
Mr. Call. Here. Mr. Neal.
Here.
Mr. Evans.
Here.
And Ms. Foster.
I was promoted and I'm here.
Thank you very much. Absent is Ms. Rickman from Prospect.
Okay. Next, we have our time for public participation. If you are here and you'd like to participate, please let us know. You can come up to the clear stand there. If not, and you are at home watching, you would like to comment, you can email for public comment at rsu25.org, or you can phone in for public comment at 307-8099. And as I'm seeing that we don't have anyone jumping up to the podium, we can move on to adjustments to the agenda.
I do have a couple of adjustments. On the agenda, we've added agenda item 5 under new business, and that would be the discussion around VHS robotics. Also, if we could please add to L1A, we have a letter from Ms. Marks to add. Under L1B, we have volunteers for middle school baseball to add Tucker Boynton, Anthony Hamlin, and Vance Eldridge. Add those. And make sure we have the board budget workshop date correct and not misprinted. That should say March 30th, not March 28th, which we had incorrect. So we have to fix that. And that's what I have for adjustments.
Thank you. Next is the time for approval of the minutes. I trust you've all had a chance to see them. I would look for motion.
I move that we approve the minutes of February 28th, 2023.
Second. We have a motion and a second on the minutes. We have a roll call vote. I almost slipped up.
Good catch. Mr. Foster.
I approve.
Mr. Burgess.
Yes.
Mr. Cobb.
Yes.
Mr. Nealon.
Yes.
Ms. Foster.
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth.
Yeah.
Mr. Frazier.
Yes.
Very good. 7-0. Thank you.
Next, we have communications and correspondence.
In your packet, you'll have a couple of communications from me. There's quite a communication there worthy of reading from Steve Bailey, who's the executive director of the Maine School Boards Association, along with Charlotte Page, and she's the director of policy research services for your School Boards Association. And it just goes back to the discussion around policy BEDH, public participation of school board meetings, and they cite some case law that occurred just last December. I will take this back to the policy committee, and I believe our policy as drafted currently meets the expectations of this, but we'll take a look, and if it doesn't, we will certainly work on it and bring it back to the board for consideration. We received a letter regarding our ESCA federal programs monitoring status. I think in my report, I also shared with you, we met low-level monitoring, which is the best you can get, which is kudos to the folks, Christina and Katie, for the work that they're doing. So those are the key communications I have with you.
Next, we have superintendent's report.
Yeah, you have my report. Again, fairly concise, talked about ESCA. We've already talked about that. Some nominations, computer science. We get on the agenda the 6-month update of COVID operating procedures. That's something we have to do because we are still receiving federal monies through the American Recovery Act and the ESSER. We are required to have a 6-month revisitation of these. And once they're revisited, they should be posted up on the website. Federal government is auditing this. So we want to make sure we're doing things properly. And I provided you some information around that. And the rest of everything is going to be on the board agenda.
Okay, excellent. Next, we have the board chair's report. I'm very happy to announce that the robotics team has won their first event, and they came in first. This is the first time that they've done that in 7 years of doing that. So this was really quite an accomplishment for them. And they really think that they have a good shot of going to Worlds this time, which is in Houston. And that will be one of the things that we'll be talking about later. But I know, once again, I'm probably stealing Josh's thunder, but it is kind of a big deal for me. But I wanted to make sure I got to tell you all. Next, we have our committee reports. We have curriculum committee. You have something?
And we did not meet because we had just met like the week prior, the way the schedule was. So we have a meeting coming up this month.
Sure. Finance committee met right before this meeting. We discussed where we are in the cost center budget report. We're about 34% left to go, and we're better than, or at least that, in all costs. We also discussed our food service, and that is about 30 in the hole, but that includes 20,000 of new equipment purchases and 5,000 in some fairly decent repairs that we're not anticipating. Any questions on finance? Right, next we have policy.
Policy committee, not me.
Perfect. Facilities and grounds.
Yeah, facilities, we were updated by Anthony, on the installation project. He commented that they might be taking a little bit longer than he thought they would. But overall, he's been very happy with the completed work, and also very happy with the service, so far. The LED conversion should be, start April vacation. We'll be doing water heaters at the Jewett School in April for the April vacation. Current Jewett School occupants might be moving around a little bit, get that accomplished. To discuss the high school locker room restructure. Getting back to the Jewett, he discussed with us that there was a, Jim updated me tonight, that the outside soffits were tested positive for asbestos. So that's going to be, taken care of.
So what that means is we have to update our asbestos plan. That was not previously identified in that plan at any point. So we're required to update that, which we have a process of doing. And we have also chosen, part of the insulation project was going to be removing or cutting into the soffits and insulating up underneath the overhang. We're obviously not going to touch that asbestos board. And we're going to move on from that. It's going to be, obviously, it's not going to provide us the same level what we're looking for, but it's marginal. And compared to what it's going to cost for abatement, we don't want to go there. So at this point in time, it's going to be left alone. It's still intact. It's fine.
Yeah.
And we can continue on with our lives.
And so, Jim, just let me ask you this, because I can't remember, I'm sorry, but the Jewett School is owned by
RSU 25.
RSU 25, and so we maintain it, despite the fact that the town of Bucksport has a portion of it that they utilize.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if we could get them on the hook, right?
Well, now that we've reported this, I'm sure that no, you're good. You're fine.
All right,
Yeah.
good.
So talking about the high school locker room, the boys locker room restructure, Anthony thought we would be a good idea to take the middle section out of the locker room and would help potential issues of kids, you opening the door and you'll be able to see everybody when you open the door and there won't be any potential shenanigans again. Discuss the non-functioning windows at the high school at Finding Twain and Miles Lane School. Talked about repairing them instead of replacing them. And any other issues there?
No, I think you're right on top of it.
That's it. Any further questions on facilities?
A little addition, we did also discuss some plans to remove the extra lockers from inside the high school cafeteria to make way for a new trophy case there, because we want to make room for newer trophies in the actual entryway area. That kind of shows.
We're winning too many trophies. If you live in-
Yeah.
What a terrible thing. We spent like 45 minutes trying to find a way to get the robotics trophies in there without knocking everything else over. So we do need to figure out the case. But it requires a little bit of remodeling, so. But we have a plan.
Okay. Great problem to have.
Yeah.
And Scott, do you have anything for HCTC?
Yes, we did meet. The majority of the meeting, we were dealing with the HCTC budget. But I'm gonna steal some of Josh's thunder probably. It was in his report. If anybody read it. I'm helping all of us here because it'll get up saying, well, hi. But they had Skills USA for HCTC and 5 Bucksport students earned medals. And I'm just gonna read off their names. Emma Brzezowski earned a gold. Mercedes Tangatua earned a gold. Olivia McCallion earned a gold. James Kennard earned a silver. And William Heileman earned a gold. So
Let's go.
okay, well, Emma was early childhood education. Mercedes was criminal justice quiz bowl as a team. Olivia McCallion was a career pathways showcase as a team. James Kennard was diesel, and William Heileman was criminal justice quiz bowl as a team. So good representation. from Bucksport.
Students are one goal to have the opportunity to go to nationals. In most cases, there's some of them that if there's tiebreakers with gold medals, they have to do some further qualification, but. So there's a good chance that we'll have 4 students will have the opportunity to go to nationals. For like this was a summer.
That's fantastic.
So I can steal all of the
So we have no old business. Under new business, for personnel, we have some resignations in the package.
Yeah, I have 2. I have one, the adjustment, Andrea Marks, resigning at the end of the school year from her position as Director of Special Services. And also under co-curricular, Allison Braley is finally listening to Mr. Woodby, letters of Allison, and saying you're doing too much, and she's kind of tearing down a little bit and taking a step away from student council. Allison's very busy, so.
We look for a motion with regret.
I move that with deep regret and admiration, we accept the resignation.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All those, oh. Ian saved you.
Sorry, Tom.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Foster,
Aye.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nealon,
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth.
Yeah.
And Mr. Cobb.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, we have nominations.
Nominations, I have a list here for you. Under support personnel, Justin Davis, custodian, and he is assigned BHS. Maddie Cormier, BMS B team volleyball. Jared Copeland, BMS track assistant coach. And volunteers at Bucksport Middle School baseball, Tucker Boynton, Anthony Hamlin, and Vance Eldridge.
Well, I move we accept the nominations as a block.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And now we will have a roll call vote.
Okay, Mr. Foster,
So it was close enough. I was able to remember that. Accept.
Mr. Burgess.
Yeah.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nealon,
Affirmative.
Mr. Wentworth.
Yeah.
And Mr. Cobb.
Yes.
Thank you all.
Next, we have computer science integration demonstration. For those of you who like to touch things, you'll probably use this. Elson stepped out. It's like a Scooby-Doo thing. You know, over here, and she comes out of that. All right.
She's been.
Hold on, I have to haul my piles of stuff. No, I got it.
I'm not an eye place.
All right.
Mr. Morrell, are you the assistant?
I am her minion in this case, flipping roles for the day.
So there's a handout going out, but I came to show, we're very excited. The state of Maine, is using, some funds. And one of the things that they were trying to do is the state of Maine is actually, lacking. We're very far behind other states in our computer science program, across the state of Maine. It is a feather in our cap that Bucksport is actually one of the leaders in the state for computer science. We're one of the few middle schools that have children that get computer science all 4 years. That's actually fairly rare, especially in this area. That tends to be a Southern Maine kind of thing. So they're trying to expand computer science into all areas K-12. And so one of the things that they tried to do was to get some hands-on computer science equipment, things that are very, very expensive that schools wouldn't normally be able to afford. So back in December, the turnaround was literally like 2 weeks. They announced it. You had to order your kits, pay for them, have them delivered all within, I think it was like a 30-day period. It was a very short period of time. But so there was a group of us that met. We tried to make the best decision possible. You'll see on the handout on the right, it kind of gives a quick breakdown of what each kit is. The article on the left on the front page is actually from the DOE themselves about what their program was and the idea. But the idea is basically there were 3 areas that they touched on. There was augmented and VR reality, hardware and coding, and robotics. So we tried to match best what there was available to our various schools and then spread the kits out between the 4 buildings. So what you'll find is they were doing robotics kits that were geared towards K-5. And so each kit contained a set of Sphero bolts, which I will show you, and Sphero indies. The bolts are just some of you may have seen them before. They're just a little clear robot, and they can be used, they're really more geared towards 1st to 5th grade. And they are allowed to do coding. You can use them without coding, but the idea being that you would learn basic coding skills. And then the kits came with very large mats. If you look on the back of the handout, I had pictures of a bunch of kids at Miles Lane using them on mats. So one of the really great examples is in Rebecca Berry's class. We went in, we talked about length and distance, and the mat is a golf mat. And so you put your robot, the fun part is you have to pick a color. So it looks like a golf ball. And then you would learn about distance, trying to get your golf ball from the tee to the hole. You had to learn about angles and turning. So we put the mats out and the kids spent all their time trying to get their golf ball to the hole. They thought it was a lot of fun. So the Spheros, as they begin to learn how to use the draw program and work their way up, they start using very basic coding commands. They start learning about distance. They start learning about angles. So it's a lot of fun. It's a very hands-on activity. We've done several events already at Miles Lane. We've been in a couple of classrooms last week. The title math department actually did a coding day where they had the kids come in. We had mats all set out. We did a whole bunch of different activities. We made a maze and obstacles. They had to drive them through things. They thought that was fantastic. So they've actually already been getting a whole lot of use at the Miles Lane School. So each kit came with 15 Spheros and then 8 indies. It's the cutest little robot you've ever seen. And so the indie is basically though meant for pre-readers, for younger kids. The indie works pretty easily. Sorry. You have a series of cards that are color coded, and the kids are given an idea of what each card means and does. And they kind of lay them out, and then you try to get your robot to move through. So the idea being like red means stop, greens means go. Each different color is a different angle. So as you lay them out to try to get your indie to go in a square, you have to learn about left, right. You have to learn about different angles. And it talks about using appropriate angle terms like 45, 90. It also does things like basic colors. The Sphero Indy lights up as he goes over the colors. And he makes all these fun noises. It also can be shapes. Each card has a different shape on them. So they're meant for pre-kindergarten. So we got 3 kits total. So we ended up with 45 bolts and 24 indies that we put the indies down at Jewett, and then we put the bolts at Miles Lane. And we have a fair amount of back and forth between them. We did a huge tech training the other day, and now we have some Jewett school teachers that want to borrow the bolts, and we have a bunch of Miles Lane students that want to borrow the indies. So we're kind of flowing them back and forth, but we did get a large section of those. They also come with a lot of teacher cards. They come with teacher planning books, education cards. So there's already pre-made lessons for the teachers. They don't need to go and try to spend a lot of time. They can literally use a standalone lesson, or they can do entire units using both sets of robots, which is pretty fantastic. Then for the middle school and the high school, 1 second, pack my cute little robot away. We got Lego kits. So the Lego kits were done in units. They're meant to be with 2 kids each using them. So each 2 kids per get a tub of Legos. And they come with everything they need to make in the Lego Prime kit. I'm going to show, oh, I think I left it over here. My bad. So 1 second. So this is made by one of my 7th grade students. They're going through right now. We're using them for 7th grade. They're doing Lego robotics, and we're actually in the process of teaming up with the high school. The kids are going to build robots, and then at the end of the year, we're going to have the high school robotics team come up to work with them, and then they're going to have their own little robotics convention. But the coding works similar to this. It's actually a lot better than when we used code.org earlier. I was just telling Mr. Morrill. So a lot of them, like when you build the wheel, you have to plug it in on a certain side on the hub. Then when you go to code, you actually have to tell the computer which hub matches which wheel. And so there's a lot of hands-on connections there. I had a lot of like, oh, like when I hit the A on my Xbox controller, it means exactly. So you get done, you hit the play, it's not going to work just because it'll run, and then they can start getting them to move. And then they learn to program the buttons on the top. So you hit the left arrow and he does one thing, you hit the right, it will go the other way. So there's a lot of like hands-on Lego robot. There's Legos everywhere in the VMS library, but he'll just keep going everywhere. So they build them in stages. They start, this is like the first stage, then we'll go on to stage 2. And then eventually as they work their way through the software, they will design and program their own robot to do whatever we've decided. Mr. West and I are in the process of coming up with various categories that they can build in. So then that way we can have a variety of different areas that they can try and maybe have a bunch of robot winners. And so that was for that was for coding and hardware. And then the third one, Mr. Morrill is going to come around, was for AR and VR, which is augmented and virtual reality, which more and more is becoming a big thing. In fact, University of Maine and Husson University have both started building large kits in augmented and virtual reality. We took a bunch of middle schoolers and high schoolers out actually a couple weeks ago to the University of Maine's augmented reality area, and they started learning about how that works. But these are MergeCube. They come with the software. The software is really the most expensive part. So the iPad on the desk in front of you actually has the software. I don't think it's set up because you have to log in as a student, but there is a way to use it for free. So if you look, you'll find a one that says HoloGlobe. You want to do? What do you want to do? And when you open it up, it will ask you if you want to pay for a subscription, or it will also have you just, you can kind of do it without. And we're going to look at one of the ones that's without. So just continued with locked content for today.
Pick that up.
Then once it loads, at the bottom, I need
Oh, my word.
You want access to the camera?
Yes, and you want access.
You got one.
You signed in.
Man.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
We wound it up. That's what I feel like.
Sign in.
That's the next step.
Yeah.
This is a Mr. Moral fail, my apologies.
I didn't know we were talking transportation today, because that's.
The bus don't move again.
Right.
We're signing in over.
We shouldn't be asking us to sign.
I can't get mine to work at all over here, Allison.
I should have. Well, maybe they won't.
If you want to show us how it does work. That's what she is.
Yeah. Actually, if you click continue with Google, it'll allow you to log in your school board account. Email,
That's a pain out.
if you want to.
I would expect you-
Anyway, get some mine around and you can kind of play with it as you get it. But there is a pile of different types of learning here in the Merge software. It's really kind of their thing. If you look at the cube, it's actually on little hidden QR codes. So the way the Merge software works is you would pick something like Earth. And this is an introduction to the five main subsystems. So it talks about atmosphere, hydrosphere, biosphere. And you would hit the next. And it shows the screen here. You hold the cube behind it. There we go. And it actually starts talking. And it will move the Earth around. So since you can't get it to work, I'll pass mine around. Classic technology issue. Like this.
Right.
But as you get going, if the iPad was in a stand, you can tap on the layers of the Earth and get them to peel away. It does things. It's the Merge software is mostly really for science. But it has every kind of idea. So you can do the human body. There is an area where literally if you're looking at the human body, you can say, I want to see the circulatory system. And it takes away the body except for the circulatory system. And then you can go in, you can zoom in while holding it, and you can look at all the pieces. You can look at the bones, veins, muscles. There's a whole area on using NASA data from Earth to track earthquakes, fires, heat, temperature, water levels. You can look at, there's one that literally will show you enter any day in the time, and it will show you what Earth looked like bright, like light and day. You can spin it all around. So you can put your birthday, the kids always, I want to look at my birthday. And then you can look at what the Earth looked like with lights on your birthday. The other software that comes with that is called CoSpaces. That's not on an iPad, but CoSpaces is a virtual reality world where literally your kids go in and they lay things out. They build an entire world. And then they can project the world onto their Merge cube and hold it. You can interact with it. It's everything from doing, like, if you think of it like an escape room, you can literally hide things. You have to find something and click on it. It takes you to another world. And then they can also use VR headsets, and then they could walk through their worlds as well that they create. CoSpaces is quite pricey. And so we get, I've been using it for a while, but we always had to use the basic free version. So this allows us to have for the next year or two, the really fancy, expensive. I think it's like $6, wasn't it like $6 a seat for CoSpaces? So it allows you to have a lot of virtual hands-on activities. So those are the science kits that we've been rolling out in all of our classrooms. But in the classrooms, the iPads. Sorry, I forgot stuff.
We thought we were going ahead by picking up iPad that need the software installed. We're like, hey, let's install the software.
And we just have it. Yeah. So for the kids, it automatically puts them right in, and then it allows them to move it around. So,
Yeah. Thank you. We might not be your target audience here.
yeah.
No, that's fine. Go ahead.
Thank you. I don't feel bad. I'm playing with the kid.
Right. They will work too. So they're a lot of fun. They're kind of neat. I did when I first got them. I was like, why do you use this cube? Like, we'll just use the software, it'll be fine. And the kids actually really do enjoy holding it. Like it, so it does have some.
So one of the things for clarification, you talked about, we purchased this in December.
Oh, well, yeah.
We didn't purchase it per se. We had to be the middle person. So we made the purchase and all the costs were refunded 100% by DOE. So
Yes.
just want to make that. Official note there.
I should have said that.
Yeah. That's fine.
I've just been telling everybody you spent so much money.
Yeah, thanks.
Well, I have a lot of Legos.
But the nice part is we took advantage of this so we can continue to expand on computer science integration opportunities for kids K through 12.
And although we haven't been through the full CSI training, we have 3 people going through, which is what the state's train the trainers tend to come back and teach teachers, but it's running in our district already. Once the word was out, of course, once you give out and piece of technology, she runs with it as well. So we've had all these sessions, even though you've met 3 times at this point, 2 times. The CSI group has met how many times?
Tonight was number 3.
So they've met 3 times, so they really get the foundation underneath them as a whole. And we've already implemented many pieces of it in the district. And
And
actually, we, all I did was make sure the finance was there, Katie's throwing out the window. But Allison, many of the other staff taking the lead themselves and engage and see how they can implement it in their curriculum.
And it's the 3 going is me, Elos, Steve from Miles Lane, and then Marianne Kester from Schuett. And then there will be an opportunity this summer. I don't know if Marianne signed up, but I know Elos and I are going to the 2 different trainings this summer. I believe she is too. But so that's a lot of work with the DOE. Going to different trainings that they're offering on how to use the kits. And then the idea being that we would come back and use the things that we're learning to help integrate into other classrooms. So the big selling feature for that would be that there would be 2 more people, one at Jewett and one at Miles Lane, that already are kind of getting an idea of what I do to try to help their coworkers and their peers start doing that same thing down there. And then when I go down, there'll be somebody else there to help. But I've spent a lot of time since I think we put these in January, and I'm probably at Miles Lane, if not 4 days a week, at least 3 days a week. I'm in Miles Lane at this point. I'm going from looking like a crazy person, running from classroom to classroom. In fact, one of the kids walked in, one of the kids yelled, "The robot lady's here!" And I turned to Jim. So I called Jim. I'm like, "I'm any new business cards?" And they have to say the robot lady. Teacher, the robot teacher. So now I get harassed at Miles Lane by the kids, like not even the teachers, the students at Miles Lane harass me because they see it in the classroom next door and they want to know why I'm not coming into their room. And so then I get an email from their teacher and it just keeps spreading through the building. So I'm going to be there all Friday morning. They're doing wing 4, I believe. Wing 4 is doing an entire computer science day. We're going to have different activities covering different functions. So it's been fantastic. Those are our CS kits. Does anybody have any questions for Jim? No.
Any questions?
Is that's really cool a question?
No, it is. Yeah, they are. Yeah, no, they are. It's just the little stuff of watching it be hands-on. The idea of being, we've been doing computer programming for a while, and some of the concepts, just with the Legos alone, some of the concepts they're grasping way faster than they ever have before because they're literally building it with their hands. They come right, my 7th graders right now, they walk right in. They usually come in, chit chat, they go right to the wall, they pull their tub, and they spend the entire 44 minutes. They're not talking, they're literally building these robots. And then the other really big thing that I've begun to notice with our 7th grade is there's no like asking a lot of questions at first. They're really trying to problem solve on their own. So a lot of times in middle school, the minute they run into any sort of problem, their hand immediately goes up and they want assistance. And they don't ask me for help until they literally have tried everything they can think of before. So they're really working on self-reliance. They're working on problem solving. And they really are only asking me for help once they've gotten too far and they can't understand the concept. And then without fail, once I show them, they're literally, I had one thing, is like, well, don't touch it, go away. I want to do it. Like they want to do it on their own. And that's been really impressive to see too, of that self-reliance and that problem solving, instead of just immediately trying to get someone to come help them. Plus Legos are cool. So, It's really easy to keep them engaged.
I'm sitting here thinking that the new teachers, they'll probably still be teaching 25 and 30 years from now. I can't even comprehend
Yeah.
what's happening.
And we put them in, Kaylee Chafee in her kindergarten class, I literally showed her 3 minutes of those indies. And you'll see the picture from the DOE, I literally harassed the DOE. I was like, look at this picture of our kindergarten teacher, we put this kid in this building within a half hour, she had them in her room. And so it was featured on the DOE Facebook page, they shared it out to the state, bragging about how Kaylee got them in her classroom. So, yeah, they're pretty cool, they're a lot of fun. If you ever are touring the building, you want to stop in and play with robots.
I think one of the things that this is learning, it's not just fun and games.
Right.
But it's experiential learning and it brings it in a modality and a manner that is where these kids are. They're digital natives and I don't see a lot of us in this room that are digital natives. Right, and so we have to understand that education needs to evolve to meet the needs of our learners. Obviously, we have to meet the curriculum, but we can do it through this. It's exciting. It's on the cutting edge in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Appreciate Allison's role for this. She's been our CSI teacher, and that's not the show CSI, that's the computer science integrated, right? And this is really, really important that we give these skills to these kids.
Yep.
Because this is going to be their future.
Yep.
I talked to one of our constituents and he was in Las Vegas at a construction expo. And one of his takeaways was all these very large machines, earth moving machines, are now unmanned robotic machines, and they're being controlled by a driver that's using, a joystick type of a
Like a
situation.
drone.
Yeah. And, it's a different way of doing things, and that is the future.
And the University of Maine is really trying to step up. On my main CSTA call, computer science teacher. They're talking about the University of Maine is really trying to come to the front and be also a leader in digital areas. So they're investing a lot of money in 3D printing. They have one of the world's largest 3D printers up there. They're trying to get into AR, VR. They're trying to really expand their computer science. So there's a lot of push lately to try to start getting kids involved in this end and then having them go up to the University of Maine and find those same things. So leaders, and they're talking about in the future, farming will all be done with robots and computers. So you'll need to learn to program the robot to how it plants, so it will go through, and it will, so even the most basic of things that we would think computers aren't going to be in the future, they're going to start. It's going to be everywhere. And our kids have a real advantage because they'll have a basic understanding of how computer science works and how computers work. And then that'll give them an edge for jobs as they get older and getting into places like university, which is really cool. And the other part that was really surprising to me was not every school district took the state of Maine up on this. In fact, a lot of school districts said no. So, and we jumped right on it, which was a real credit to Jim. They were on it like that. So, yay, progress. I have a really fun job. It's kind of almost shameful that you pay me some days. How much fun I have. Like the other day, I literally spent all day playing robots in Minecraft, and I was like, I can't believe I get paid for this someday.
You're not helping your case.
Yeah, that's how I did that for a few years. I'm really good, but no, it's a lot of fun. Okay, so sorry your iPads didn't work.
Just leave your merge cube in your iPad, then we'll put them after the meeting.
Thank
Do
you.
you want your, fancy?
Yeah.
Computer back?
Yeah, it's to try to trick the kids into thinking it's a book and not see how it looks. And then they don't try to touch my iPad. You can tell I look at more cool.
Thank you very much for that presentation. The next item on the agenda is the 6-month update, the RSU 25 COVID operating procedures.
As I shared in my report and alluded to earlier, we have received quite a bit of money through the federal government, through COVID, through ARP monies, ESSER. They have a whole different alphabet soup, but in essence, federal monies to help us bridge the way through COVID. Part of the expectations of those monies, that as long as you're receiving those monies, you need to maintain a plan for how to operate schools, given the COVID. Obviously, we've come a long ways from where we were just a year ago. But following the guidelines and the basis from this school board's direction is we've played it fairly straight and gone and said, we will align with the CDC. In the fall, I brought to you the guidelines and it's in your packet. That's what we're currently doing. And basically the biggest summation, if I can do, is if somebody is positive with COVID, they are asked to quarantine for 5 days. And then when they are symptom-free, return to school with a mask. The rules do allow now for if you have 2 antigen tests 48 hours apart that are both negative, you don't need to wear a mask. Okay. That's what I put in your packet. They also have some nice pictograms that I pulled off the CDC and I shared with you. Basically, what that is saying is our basic practice. We are not testing kids anymore. That's gone away. Testing adults. If somebody needs help with that, we'll help. But we're doing very little with that now. Folks understand the process. We do have some people who still choose to mask, but our masking is 100% optional unless you're gone through the protocols of having COVID. That's where we're at currently. The requirement is that each 6 months if this comes for the board, it's up to you to give direction as to stay the course, change the course, do what you want to do. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
So Jim, these are the federal guidelines, and this is what they are asking us to do at the current moment. And we don't have anything that we have made as a rule here on our level. We've never done that. We've never made an additional hurdle.
No.
Have any of the schools at their own level made a procedure that would be outside of the policy that we've done as an additional?
As a board, you could add depth to that.
No, I'm not saying good.
No.
I'm saying have we?
We have not, no.
As far as I know, we have never done that.
Okay.
Okay, so
No.
this one page is the extent of what there is. Okay. Now, there may be some legacy things that might be kicking around that aren't really in or around anymore. Like we have some signage that says social distancing and whatnot. I've seen.
It's encouraged, not required.
Okay. But that was like several iterations
Oh, God, yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
But are those, we're going to take those down? Or
Oh, we can take down. I thought we've taken them down. Maybe I missed.
maybe summer cleaning or something down?
You know, as far as we're still maintaining cleaning.
I mean, that's really always been the recommendation, like during cold and flu season anyways, to be not right with people.
Give a little bit of space if we can, right? I would say for the most part, you can talk to your building administrators. We're about as close to normal as we were prior to COVID right now.
Yeah.
Which is good, which is really important. There are still a few people that may wear a mask by choice, but very few. Maybe 1 or 2 that I've seen. But, yeah.
So if that's the case, why don't we just make our procedure return to normalcy? And not have all these implementations and stuff? I mean, is that an option within the guidelines?
That's, well,
It is not following the federal guidelines, though.
Do we have to follow the federal guidelines?
I didn't say that either.
Okay, well, she had mentioned that.
No, but you asked that
Yep.
was within the guidelines. No, not within the CDC. But as a board, if the board chooses to step outside of that and saying, we're going to ignore all of that, I guess that's within your purview. It's not what I would recommend at this point in time. my recommendation would be stay the course. What we've done from March 2020 to current is we do the minimum to align with the guidelines. And why? Because we're in a position to, if we do have an outbreak, we can move forward and deal with that. We have not seen that. We did have a spike of illness, but it wasn't COVID per se this winter. It was just a lot of different things going around.
With RSV.
And RSV, well, yep, exactly. I don't think it hurts us to do this.
Is it a requirement of these federal funds?
The federal funds say that you have to have a plan to return to school. Okay, you are encouraged to follow guidelines. The state does not have any guidelines separate from the federal government at this time. Okay, so they're saying their recommendation is follow.
That's why we start using the state.
That's correct, because they just pulled right out of that entirely.
We had it on the state.
Yes, yeah, we were expected to be following the state.
Well, basically, the only inconvenience is if you test positive, you should isolate for 5 days.
That's correct.
But that's almost common sense anyway. Because you shouldn't be out infecting other people if you have the flu or RSV or cold or anything. Probably should stay there if you're sick anyway.
So treat it like everything else then. Don't give it special accommodations when it's basically being treated like everything else.
I think Scott said it was common sense, and not all people have that.
So we want to make a
Sounds common, isn't it?
special,
It's not special, it's just.
Well, it is now,
Pandemic.
it's totally special.
What's that?
We've never had to wear masks
Yeah.
before.
No. But I think, in my opinion, we accept the guidelines.
So if someone,
Continue the course.
so if an administrator or staff after whoever comes in and they've got the sniffle or whatever COVID symptoms, it says recommended, a recommended test or a optional, you don't have to take the test,
We cannot require,
required.
we can encourage them. It's just like we can't require vaccinations for COVID. There are other things that are required. It's a whole other
Right,
conversation,
right.
but, you know, but we can recommend, we can encourage, but we also need something that if we have a situation where somebody is infected, you need to go home.
Right.
And you take these guidelines away, somebody say, well, you don't have to. Well, I'm not required to.
do we do that for kids with the flu?
They have to go home.
We
Yeah,
say-
With the
so-
safety.
Yeah, I mean, so we can send them home, it's,
But I will tell you, we have people who will send kids home and they come back the next day. And
So,
you go
so,
through that whole process again.
so I'm just looking through this. There's 2 points where they ask you to wear this. I think that's probably the issue that we're most concerned about, because the going home, I think, is pretty much universal acceptance for that, yes. But one is if you develop symptoms while at school, then they urge you to get tested and wear a mask until they figure out what to do with you. And then the other is after you have been sick and been home for 5 days and now you're coming back, they ask you to wear the mask for the last 5 days.
Because data is showing that you're still contagious.
That you might
Can still be
potentially
passing on.
be something.
Unless the only caveat for that is, and these are in the guidelines. And if you have 2 tests within a 48-hour span that are negative, then you can go by mask.
But there is no general regime of wearing masks for everybody. Wearing a mask while you're in sports, wearing a mask as soon as you hit the property. There's none of that anymore.
No.
This
Not
is,
at this time. I mean, in the guidelines, it would say if you had a major outbreak and your county was designated a red county, then you were encouraged to but they're not forcing you to do it.
I didn't see anything on this page about bed cat.
And that's a whole, it's a deeper, it's in the guidelines, it's deeper.
Okay, so there's more than this page.
Well, on the CDC guidelines, they get into county designations and
Hancock is in yellow right now. There's only a couple, most of them in the state of Maine are low right now.
What happens if we take the COVID language out of this and just say severe illness?
Or respiratory illness.
Even respiratory illness, digestive illnesses can be, you can get your stomach bug just to leave and you can't check.
Well, then, do you want to mask somebody because they puked? I don't think that really makes a whole lot of sense.
At least it wouldn't go.
be messy though.
You know, this is my opinion. The whole problem that started with this COVID was when school boards took it upon themselves to make rules when they knew absolutely nothing about what they were doing. And the prime offender was Mount Desert Island. And if those people had just followed what the state was currently doing, we never, in my opinion, ever would have shut down in 2020. But they took it upon themselves to make a whole list of reasons why they needed to go home, because they were smarter than everybody else. And there was no sense whatsoever for anyone in Hancock County to have shut down at that time. But they did it. And then all of the rest of the schools had to follow suit because the state can't, because they weren't out in front of it. And I believe that the best that we can do is admit that we are not specialists in any of this. Let somebody else who is do it. So I believe that we follow the guidelines. We don't make any new rules. And this is not an unreasonable request.
I think that makes sense, Tom.
Have these guidelines been updated?
Oh, absolutely.
So when's the last update? Oh,
They're updated almost weekly, aren't they?
On a regular basis. I haven't seen
so
significant changes since we're staying.
there's no change really.
This,
The one thing they
this
did add was-
particular image says 12/13/22 on it.
Yeah, they did update the 48-hour. The two negative tests in 48 hours.
That's good.
That's different than what it was as well. But that is the current guidance.
I agree, Tom, that I think it's just smart to go with the CDC of the experts. We're not. And we're not asking anybody to do anything. Like you said, schools look like, you walk into school, looks very normal. Sports, extracurricular, everything, it looks very normal. But it's still out there. I think we're gonna have to live with COVID. Forever now, as well as flu and SUV. It's just COVID proved to be a little bit different than the flu, and
I think the difference with COVID was how it got promoted. Totally, to be quite honest with you. I think that is the big
it
difference.
became very political.
Yes,
It became very political. It never should have become political. It should have been.
and a lot of hype got thrown into it.
And at first, the experts didn't know enough about it. So they were trying, and then when they made changes, with more data that they had, people that didn't, want to accept it, just kept saying, see, they don't know what they're talking about. And it's just that we gathered more data. Like we're not teaching schools today like we did 30 years ago.
But I do think that at the current moment, that unbridled fear that was constantly being stoked is now subsided. And I think that was a major part of the problem. But at the same time, we have, like you said, this does still exist. I got it. This is the first time I got it was here, right in the middle of tax season. It was just primo time for me. But But, you know, it does happen. And there's no reason to say that this thing doesn't exist. And we can treat it in a very reasonable manner, which I believe that this is asking for reasonable manner. If you came in and you had measles, we would send you home and we would not let you come back. And there's a good reason for that.
There's many diseases that we send kids home.
And there's many diseases that we do that, and we have special rules, but we just don't pay any attention to that. We have a rule for measles. We treat that different than if you are, you know, had a bad lunch, you know. And that's a reasonable thing. And I honestly think in 6 months' time, we'll forget all about that. We even have this list, one-page list of rules.
No, they're not gonna give up their list.
Of course they won't. They've got a list on measles. They've got a list on the flu.
So how long are we gonna keep doing this? For 6 months forever?
Well, no, actually, we're required because of the federal monies, which we're gonna have through September of 24.
You know, the year. And what I want to make sure you as a board are preserving access to
Those monies, I mean, we're planning on $1.4 million of construction for the Jewett School from that money.
that comes from the deal for the money.
Because it's the HVAC.
Because of HVAC and ventilation system. Okay, and that's one of the projects that we do. We had to put ventilation in that school, which is 42, took advantage of that. Yeah, I think these guidelines are gonna continue to change over time. And it's gonna become, and it already has, but more day to day, it's more of what we do. Don't see, and this is where you're gonna have to talk to your building administrators. I don't see this as being horribly disruptive to getting kids to come to school. I think that's pretty fair. Kids are coming to school with baby demands.
And those opportunities to present need us much less than they were.
Exceptionally less, yeah. I just need to have direction from the board. We're gonna follow along with the rules that we're supposed to follow and have them updated, because we do know that the federal government is checking to make sure we're following the rules, and if you don't follow the rules, they will try to take away your money. And again, I hate to, you know, it sounds so horrible to say it's about the money. It's not about money, it's about health and welfare of kids, but at the same time, we have commitments for a construction project. And without those funds, we'd be in trouble because we don't have the money to follow through on that. That will make our system better.
But regardless of whether it's about the money or not, these policies put us kind of in the bucket with the money. They must follow the guidelines.
That's kind of the sticking carrot. Yeah, but you could say we're gonna totally ignore this, and I can't tell you what's gonna happen. I don't know. I can tell you if you follow along and stay with the minimum guidelines, we'll be fine. The other way, I can't guarantee.
I move that we accept the guidelines for COVID as presented.
Second.
Put it to a vote.
All right, we will go to a roll call vote.
Now police say her husband, a Colorado dentist, killed her by poisoning her with toxic chemicals. Trusted by Fortune 500 companies for quality, reliability, and efficiency.
Ready to go?
Oh, are you saying Miss Foster? I'm sorry, I thought it was, I
No,
agree.
Not with background noise.
Okay. All right. So
Mr. Foster,
I accept.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Miss Foster,
Yes.
Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nealon,
Unequivocally, no.
Mr. Wentworth,
No.
Mr. Cobb.
Yes.
Motion carries on a 5-2 vote, and numerically it'll
It will pass.
pass numerically, yes.
All right.
I can do the adding now if you would like.
No, I don't think. that's-
It may take a
All right. Thank you.
All right, so we will continue and maintain that. All right, thank you very much. Good debate, healthy debate, and appreciate everybody engaged. Thank you. All right,
Next, we have the annual review and consideration of offering an after-school food program.
okay. There's a law in the state of Maine, and I sent you the information that requires any district that has a school with more than 50% free and reduced lunch, which we do, is required unless opting out to offer an after-school food program. Okay, the after-school food program would require that you feed students and adults. At the end of the day, we have yet to do this. Every year we brought this forward, we have opted out. Multiple reasons is the rurality of our district makes it extremely difficult to offer this program equitably for everybody. And fiscally, you can see we're not making money in food service programs. So
What kind of a meal, is it a class A meal? or is
it's a meal that meets the requirements of the food service program. Now, what we do, and one of the things I did is went back and thought I knew the answer, but I called mistaken and said, now, if we have kiddos that stay after school, are we providing them snacks? And yes, that's built into the budget. Kids are given snacks. Kids don't go hungry in this district. We, teachers are fantastic about that. And as a school, we go above and beyond. So part of the annual requirements that we need to certify that this was brought before the board and you made a decision one way or the other. Recommendation of the food service director is not to do this program. We have a hard time staffing the program we have now, let alone adding them.
Do we have any questions for Jim beyond what his presentation? I would look for a motion.
Move that we do not adopt an after-school food service.
Second. All right, we have a motion and a second, and we will move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Foster,
I accept.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nealon,
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth,
Yeah.
Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I will just say, Mr. Cobb, generally, we don't give negative one because they're confusing. But you did good.
I've noted, I'll make sure the motion would say, do not, it'll be in there.
Great. Next, we have update on VHS robotics and consideration of funding and fundraising activity.
So, Mr. Tripp, you can join in this conversation too. You have a couple of new fundraising requests built in here. It is pretty certain that we're going to have a robotics team that's going to qualify for the rules. They're in very, very good position, and we are at a point where we need to start solidifying plans to get them there, because the logistics, if we don't do it now, we're in trouble. Okay. So they are going to do a couple more fundraisers. One of them is where the Orrington Church reached out and said, this is fantastic. We'd like to do a supper for you.
I know, and then it's not gonna cost us, we're not gonna have to buy the food or anything.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, and then the other one is folks wanted to do a GoFundMe page, which is fine. This will give people from away an opportunity to make a contribution. Along with this is we have a couple for our alumni of Bucksport High School who said that they would do a matching of fundraising of what fundraising we've accomplished this year up to $15,500. That is over a threshold that I need board to bless that before we start really pushing that out. I think that's extremely generous. They reached out to us to offer that opportunity. So
Is that strictly for just the robotics thing or for other aspects?
for this particular,
They just want to match this fundraising effort?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
The original proposal that we submitted for the original excursion form, that was 2 or 3 months ago, only accounted for students to go the World Trip, which is our typical route that we would take. Just because of the costs to send a team and a robot and coaches and hotel rooms. So we actually had already booked hotels for the 12 participants, and we have rating systems as like trying out for a team, right, to qualify to go. This couple reached out to us and said, we'd like to see everybody go.
Oh,
And so we're going to be able to increase that from 12 to 21 students. So everybody that's participated throughout the whole process, even though they may not be the person driving the robot or directly in the pit group, they've been in the shop, they've been in classes, so they're going to get that experience. Obviously, what comes along with that is a bigger price tag. You know, it is one of those things where it doesn't completely double when you double the size, but it's pretty close to it. That was the intent of the donation. It's not just the plant stuff that we've already done. We actually had already done fundraising. We were in pretty good shape to send that original group went forward. But we're going to try to raise some more funds so that we can send the bigger group.
And talking, we work with a travel agent to book all these because I've got other things to do, like to do the travel arrangements. The booking for 23 on air flights is not easy. And when you go on and you look at the prices and say, oh, what would be a flight from Bangor to Houston round trip? And oh, you get this wonderful price. Well, they said one seat at that price. No, they literally, you call them and say, wait a second, it's advertised for 12. That's only one seat. You want a group of 23.
Basically chartering a plane.
Yeah. Well, it's getting. I did look at that cost. It is cheaper for us to fly commercial. And what we're looking at is we'd be flying out of Logan Airport. And getting the kids down there and then no, it's one stop. It would go Boston to Dallas and then Dallas to Houston. No, it's not bad at all.
Take a hitchhike to Dallas.
Hopefully that's not part of it.
Oh, I can't be a chaperone.
Dallas, Houston, that's why.
We've looked at those things and logistics. Okay. We've got to, yes, costs. We have to appreciate costs, but we also have to do efficiency of planning. We still have logistics because the lodging that we have at the event center, that was limited. We actually had to put a bid in for that in the fall. And we were awarded that. And then when we found
people. Then
we had to add more. We were fortunate to get enough rooms to cover. So we've got them at that for 3 of the nights they're there, but we have to account for 3 other nights on the front and back end at different lodging. And then how are we going to get them from airport to lodging, the new lodging event center, back to event center to lodging, back to airport. So there's a lot of moving parts and planning in this. And this is quite an undertaking. We've done it before, but it's nice to have a travel agent to help you out with this. So we do have to arrange transportation from Bucksville High School to Logan. We're in the process now of getting at least one of our buses certified for interstate travel. We have to have ISTA stickers on that. We have to have bus drivers maintain driving logs like you would if you were over the road. So we looked at other options. It's not cheap to get a Sear bus. They're happy to do that for more than $5,000 per day. Okay, that kind of took us out of that. How else can we get them there? It's just
What about Concord?
we
That's
looked
usually
at
my plane of choice.
We're looking at potentially school bus to Portland, or to Logan.
Logan.
So
We're gonna work on that.
Yeah.
But we will be able to, we've already been told we can get our stickers for the bus so we can drive right in Logan. with the bus. So that's not a problem. But so what we need from the board, and we can give you all the final details once we put them into play, is just the okay to continue to do fundraising, the okay to accept the matching donation moving forward. And we're gonna.
You don't have to worry about Title IX because it's an extracurricular.
It's not a Title IX, it's a co-curricular, not an extracurricular. And you had 40% of your participants are gonna be girls and the other 60% males.
So I move that we accept the fundraising proposals and matching donation. Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, and we will move to a roll call vote.
That stopped working. Okay, Mr. Foster,
I accept.
Mr. Burgess,
Yes.
Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Neal,
Affirmative.
Mr. Wentworth,
Yeah.
and Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Thank you very much. That helps us out. We will be, we can't delay too long on making our plane reservations because the longer we delay, the price goes up. And the seats become fewer and fewer. So
Who are you going to?
AAA, they worked with us the last time we went. They've been fantastic. They get $25 per person is what their fee is. It's certainly worth the amounts. And they've investigated Bangor, Portland, Logan, Manchester, so.
Yeah,
I do have a potential lower cost option for the to Boston and from Boston travel. Gonna check into that before I make
Okay,
any promises.
okay. Well, get in touch with me and we're happy to get any information we can get.
One thing that's missing from this.
Yeah.
I wish they gave the date of the stuff. I wish they gave the time. I'd like to go to that. So it's not a lot of it.
There'll be plenty of advertising around. We'll get that. I missed that actually.
I'd like
We,
to-
to be honest with you, we got this information just very recently, so trying to get this stuff
Get that together.
so that we could give it to you.
Sounds like
Um,
these.
Yeah, so there might be a few missing people, trust me, we'll do it the right way. There'll be a date and time I will get it out.
And we approved trips. This hasn't changed in such a way that we need to approve
No,
something.
you've already
Right at the
approved
moment.
it, right.
We're all good.
The only thing that's changed is the number of students that are going. And I think we had to make it, it's happening over April vacation, which is not the most ideal time to travel in terms of the cost effectiveness. It's great for kids not missing school, but it has made our travel, so we're looking at doing a Monday to Monday. So the rest of the day after, just because it's cheaper, and we get more available flights and transportation. So the only thing that has changed, we've added a little bit of length to the original excursion form and there's additional people, but the logistics of the trip. Really, we'll find some things for them to see down there to make some educational stuff.
Don't forget the Alamo.
What's that?
I'm sorry. I said, don't forget the Alamo.
We're hoping to make connections with NASA and right there in Houston. That would tie in neatly, so these kiddos.
When we're gonna be Monday to Monday, so on what day?
April 17th through April 20th.
March Madness is over by then, right?
It is.
That's where they're gonna be.
That's right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There is a couple big concerts that have made it a little difficult for a hotel.
So what were the dates again?
April 17th, returning on April 24th. So they actually will miss one day of school, but the travel coming into Logan and then be back, they should be back in Bucksport by 10 o'clock that Monday night, which is enough time and sleep that they can come to school the next day.
And that's why
Right.
on the 17th.
Yeah.
Sit on the bottom.
I know the kids are excited.
Is there anything else we would need to approve? Like, we won't meet again until after. Just if this funding falls short, is there anything else we could do or approve or?
I think we're very comfortable that we're gonna have
Okay,
the funds and I mean, they've done a good job fundraising. They received a gift from the town of Bucksport that was substantial. That's going to help. But we need to do some more. We just can't, because if we stop right now, we're gonna have nothing left.
Yeah, that's like,
oh,
we could, pull it off, but things come up a little bit short and just need to have to do more fundraising, has startup costs, and actually because the
okay.
robots expensive.
Yeah.
We budget every year, put some local money in for travel fees, and then they do their fundraising. In the last couple of years, we haven't been able to do well because of travel restrictions, so we've been able to bank some money, but we don't want to start at zero next year, so that's.
Okay.
We did that the first year.
That's.
It was very, very difficult. And You know, and again, it's not like our plan is to go every year to the Worlds. There was a year that they qualified, but they just, because of the world situation. But we want to make sure that kiddos have that experience at least once within their 4 years.
And the seniors right at the moment have never gone.
No.
So this would be their one time to go.
But even if they have a great experience, this is the only year that's even been supposed to be normal. But yeah, things, they left early in March, freshman years.
If they had that one event, their freshman year, which they came in second.
Yeah.
And they've come in second. Second.
And they broke that curse.
They finally broke their curse.
Well, thank you very much. Good conversation, very exciting. And it's outstanding and honestly, it's recognizing and we talked about a little bit about the budget and I'm not gonna stop talking about it is this school has done a great job of developing an engineering pathway, developing a computer science pathway. It's a separator for us. And this is really an outgrowth of it. And people around the country they make comments and they say, really, you do this as part of curriculum as well? Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of the reason why we're successful.
How can we follow them when we get there? Is there any way?
We will have that blasted everywhere.
We follow our Facebook page.
Yeah, YouTube.
Which is what it's called. It is a fucking YouTube, but specifically.
Right.
So there'll be a link to it. You just click on it.
Okay.
You can follow the events.
Very cool.
And the robotics page puts out there, I mean, every event. So like this, next weekend, when they're going, they put out what times they're gonna be competing for the first 2 days when they're doing the round robin competition. Yeah.
You want to know, David, call my wife. She has a schedule. So she can watch it on the computer every competition.
We'll have to storm.
It's pretty good. Good stuff. Okay.
Great. Good. All right. We have no first reading of policies, second reading of policies.
We bring back the two policies we had the last meeting, IMDC celebration of holidays and KDB public's right to know. No changes in the second reading. They're exactly as you saw the first.
Well, I move that we accept the second reading of the policies as presented.
Second.
All right. We have a motion and a second. We can move to a roll call vote.
Mr. Foster,
I accept.
Mr. Burgess. Yes. Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
Mr. Nealon,
Approved.
Mr. Wentworth.
Yeah.
And Mr. Cox.
Yes.
Standing.
That brings us to our administrator reports.
Josh is done.
Yeah, we might as well bring up Josh just so if he's got something else to round it up.
Do you have any questions?
Really.
If you do, ask Tom and Scott. Because that's right.
So obviously, we talked about a lot of the highlights and this time of year, my reports are always fun until I have to start talking about graduation planning. That's just because I get overwhelmed with all the different changes and stuff. But so it's all the great things that are happening. One thing I didn't put in my report and I'm kicking myself for, I want to make sure I let you all know was that our One Act festival happened 2 weekends ago. Is that right? Not this past weekend. And so we took second place at the One Act Festival, and we had 2 people get honored for the outstanding performances, Brenna Converse and Ira Stanforth. Miss West, Olivia West was her first year doing it, and what's helped out. They just did a fantastic job at MBI. I mentioned skills and robotics that we talked about, and then our jazz festival combo had a great weekend. So again, it's just exciting things and to see such a diverse, from a robotics competition to a play, to musical achievements. It's just great to see our students get recognized. And so just a couple of dates coming up here. So April 4th, April 5th, we're going to have our fine art showcase up here in the library. So this is when all of our art students will put all their work up here, and you can kind of come around, and our jazz ensemble will be up here playing music. So if you have an opportunity to come on April 5th at 6 o'clock, you can come here for that. And then this Thursday at the middle school auditorium, the One Act is actually going to do a public performance of their play. And that is also and that's right. And the jazz ensemble is going to be there for that. We have so many things going on. It's really hard to keep up with all this stuff. And they're all fantastic. That's a good. It is a good thing. That is also at 10 o'clock. So if you would like to go see that public performance, that would be
And that's free to follow.
That is free to the public. Other than that, pitchers and catchers for baseball, I mean, spring sports seasons are starting up. It's just a fun time of year. It really is. I mean, it's crazy, it's hectic. Yes, I mean, it's great when you have news crews in your building. We had two separate ones and I walked down to the gym because I knew Channel 7 was going to be here to do a story on our robotics team. So I went down to find them and I saw a news crew talking to a baseball player, and I thought they just got either really confused or they were trying to do a 2-for-1. And but that was Channel 5. They were covering our baseball team because they were defending state champions. So, typically when you see the news crew, you get a little apprehensive, like, oh, what's going on here? But we have them here all the time for great things. So, questions?
Right. Questions for Josh?
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
Did you guys doing March Madness this year?
We already did March Madness.
Already
Yes.
did that?
Yep, we did that 2 weeks ago. Faculty team still is undefeated against the senior basketball team. We're a little worried about next year. We may switch that to a golf match or something. So we may have to take a year off. We're not quite sure.
I believe Miss Ellis is arranging for some interns from UMaine and Hudson.
Okay. But yeah, we had a cornhole tournament. We had our normal activities with a unified basketball game sandwiched in the middle there. That was very well attended. So and it's good. And we keep saying this, but it's great to see all these events come back and the kids are they're eating it up. So it really is a fun week.
Thank you, Josh.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I've got Todd.
Good evening, everyone. A lot of the different pieces of my report are kind of sprinkled into the other folks' reports. I did just want to say on Friday, we had a really good professional development day. Very unique in my 6 years here. We had an afternoon session in which all the staff K-8 participated together in the same session. And so I remember way back in 2017, meeting with Miss Ellis in the summer and saying our school should do more together. We're so close, and we're moving in that direction with things like the Serve project, but even more importantly, like this big professional development day. So it's really exciting to see, teachers at multiple levels working on the same initiatives, working in the same direction, so that there's this focus throughout the grade levels. The particular topic was positive behavioral interventions and supports, which is the fancy name for a lot of the work that we've already done this year around sort of reestablishing classroom expectations. But, this was an opportunity to bring lots of teachers together and think about how we can have that not just be common across classrooms within a school, but across, classrooms across multiple schools. So that was an exciting time on Friday. We also have lots of exciting things, I think, with not being able to do field trips for a couple of years with the pandemic. Now that that's kind of an opportunity again, I think students and teachers are really excited to be going to places outside of the building and learning about things that are part of the curriculum and having the Aspire initiative to really help hone those in on what can students do once they're not in school, or what can they do that are exciting things that might help them think about what they want to do in school, and really help focus those field trips. And so we, it's like every week we have a different grade level or a different group of students going somewhere to learn something that is connected to careers. And those range from, Allison was talking about computer science and engineering. We've got some more science stuff going on. We've got students visiting local businesses. We've got students going to learn about trades, careers. And so really trying to cover the whole gamut of what's out there. And then we do have a pretty significant opportunity to extend our REV grant from the state for another year. That would also include potentially up to 40% of our initial grant. We would get extra funding. So our initial grant was $250,000. So 40% is $100,000. So that's pretty significant. funding. There is still a murky and ambiguous set of hoops that we have to jump through in order to get that. We just know we're supposed to go to Orono for a couple days in April, but they haven't really told us what we're doing there or when we need to show up. But I think it's a great opportunity to think about the Applied Learning Lab and all the activity that we're hoping to have go on there, how we can sustain it for a year as it gets off the ground and not have to worry about local budgetary implications of ways we might be able to move that beyond what the middle school currently has. That's what's going on at the middle school. Any questions?
So once you jump through these murky hoops, you're approved, or is there another?
We think I'm not entirely sure they know, honestly. They keep saying we're working on the process, but you need to be in Orono April 7th. They got a federal grant for $16.9 million. They gave, I think, roughly $10 million away. So like the high school got a piece of it, we got a piece, Belfast, but they didn't give it all away. So I think what they're doing is just like repackaging it as like to the initial grantees, we're gonna give you more. So I don't think it's like a competitive granting process. I think it's just, they want to make sure that we're going to spend it on true sustainability efforts and not just like the Jewett School HVAC.
That's a good project.
I don't know how innovative it is.
It's something new for that.
It is new. Yeah, it is new. So it's not like a competitive grant. They just need to make sure that there's like a plan for how to.
Any other questions for Tom? Thank you, Tom. Next I've got Darcy.
So we also at the Jewett Miles Lane level have had a lot of opportunities, a lot of classroom enrichment opportunities in the classroom and outside the classroom. Today I took a break from the building and I went on a field trip. And we went out to Knox and visited Penny's Sugar Farm. And that is, if you want to go somewhere this weekend, that is one of the best places I've ever been to. They did an amazing job. The kids hiked up. They have over 45 acres. This is one of our teacher's brothers that owns it, Sylvia Farrell. And he hiked us and the kids way out on his property, lots of blue lines running through the woods as far as your eye could see. Their facility is huge. I've never seen boiling tanks that big. And the kids had a great time today. So that was really rewarding. Allison talked about technology integration that is spreading through our buildings like wildfire. The teachers are really grasping onto that. They're integrating it into their classrooms and into lessons. We've had a lot of science experiments in first and second grade, lots of hands-on activities. We have a Wing 3 classroom that has adopted a classroom pet after a year and a half of planning and activities around math and ELA. They finally adopted a dwarf hamster into their classroom. It really is cute, and they've taken on the responsibilities of feeding, exercising him in a little hamster ball. Maple syrup is the theme this month. As long as it doesn't go down the hallway. Like I said, maple syrup. Wing 1 is working with the STARS program at the middle school, and they're going to be boiling maple sap next week, I believe. And then another experience I'm really excited about tomorrow. Todd Simcox will be visiting Julie Robbins' classroom, 4th grade classroom. They've been studying weather. He's one of my favorite weather reporters, so I'm excited about that. That's in the morning. I'll text you later.
A conversation with them on a few reports later.
Give us some some notes.
Yeah.
We are wrapping up trimester 3 with our final math literacy interventions. The big focus is on 2nd, 4th grade, so that we can help them transition 2nd and the 3rd, and then of course 4th going into the middle school. We started our final after-school intervention sessions. And I'm excited about our Little Bucks social emotional learning focus after-school program, focusing on the 4th grade learners who are very anxious about these are students that get very anxious about transitions. So Angel Bryant, one of our teachers, is working with Todd to come up with some kind of transition after school where she can bring a small group of students up there to help relieve some of those anxieties. We have the annual children's fair. So if you know any families who are looking for information and who have children between 0 and 5 years old, that will be Saturday, April 8th at the Jewett School. And then just to add my report, kindergarten went to Hannaford last week. They got a tour of Hannaford, and I heard it was amazing. It was really amazing. They got to decorate cake and bakery. They got some lobsters. They actually reserved a cash register so the kids could scan food and bag groceries. So awesome. And that's all I have for you tonight. Are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Okay, next I've got Christine.
Yeah.
My report's gonna be boring. I don't get to do all like the fun stuff. Actually, I do. This is fun too. But I have to follow Darcy's fun things happening at the elementary. So you have a copy of my report. Just a couple of things that are going on. First of all, mark your calendars for Sunday, May 21st. I know it sounds like a long ways away. It's 2 months from today, but it will be here before we know it. That'll be our academic banquet, high school, middle school that evening. Details will come, but just put that on your calendar for that evening. We'll have a meal together, guest speaker, and presentation of awards for that night. Just want to make sure you have that on your calendar. Some of the things we already talked about that I'm involved in a bunch of things going on in the district that the principals are working on. The PBIS kickoff was in my report. That was a great afternoon. It was really nice to get our pre-K to 8 staff together and to have all of us working together. So Tara representing SPED, myself representing district level support, both Todd and Darcy there, and the assistant principal. So it was just really nice. Audrey was shadowing me for the afternoon, so she got to be a part of it. It was just a really nice opportunity for us to have that large group together, all talking about the same thing. Mr. West did a great job at mixing everybody up, so they didn't get to work with just the people that they always work with. So it was nice for them to be in mixed groups to do some activities. So we did some small group, large group, back to small group. Darcy ended it with a riveting game of PBIS Jeopardy. I'm telling you, if their students acted like these teachers acted at 2:15 in the afternoon on a Friday, no one raises their hand, no one follows direction, buttons going off everywhere. You know, they're just like very competitive, and yeah. So it was a mess, but it was a good time. So it was a great game. So that was fun to be a part of. And then I believe Todd talked a little bit about the REV grant opportunity for us to get that 40% additional funding. That's also the case for the high school, well, 712 remote pathways grant that we have. So Josh, Audrey, and I will also be going to UMaine on the 7th and 14th. I just told Todd I can bounce back and forth between both REV grants and be representative of both teams, but we will be taking part in that training that we have to jump through that hoop as well. I'm doing a lot of curriculum work with committees. So curriculum committee did not meet this month, but we have a very busy agenda for April and for May. So I'm looking forward to bringing updated curriculum documents to curriculum steering and then the board eventually. And I think that's really all I have. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I am going to the UMaine Career Fair coming up. Darcy's going to come with me. We don't have any openings right now, but it is nice to just advertise our district and meet some potential future teachers. But I have.
One of the things I want to throw in is Christina will be working with some folks from the DOE and looking at creative pathways for recruiting teachers. We've done a number of things that are unique and they want to tap into us. Just so you're aware, we've been able to work with some of our ed techs who would be at Ed Tech 3. And they keep their employment and still be able to do student teaching. That was not allowed for a while, forever, until we did it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And finally got the DOE on board and got the colleges on board to do that. And so that's kind of grow your own is really, really important. And we're gonna continue on with those types of activities, so. Which is good because we have some of the universities are reaching out to us saying, we have a potential placement, would that type of arrangement be available? And as soon as we know going through budget processing and what our Title I allocations are, we can do that. So then we would get somebody student teacher for a year. They would be an employee, but able to do their student teaching spot. So and we've been able to hire people that way, which is great.
Yeah, I think that for all the things that we say, we get frustrated with the DOE. I am really appreciative of the fact that they are looking a little outside the box with this, because we do need to in order to have teachers. It's tricky to do that student teaching. It's tricky for, especially if you are coming into the field of education later. You're not just, graduating from high school and going right into education. It's hard to give up 16 weeks of a job and student teach full time for no pay. Families, they have bills. So this has been helpful that the DOE has been willing to be a little flexible with that. And the UMaine system, Eastern Maine Community College, they're all working together on this project. So that's the Maine Teacher Residency board that I'm sitting on, with some work with USM and UMaine, Augusta, and Warren.
Thank you. Next, I've got Kathy.
There's a theme. We have a lot of maple syrup and bloodletting. It seems to be taking fluids on a different. Yeah,
That's
the full body.
as long as they don't combine the two.
Right.
If we don't boil ours down in the So one of the things I wanted to do with the pictures, and I'm not sure I did it well, is really show you the transformation of the classroom. And not all the students wanted to be on camera, so we couldn't take a whole room picture. But I did want to show you how we spent some of the grant money, because it is very expensive. And one of the things we started out with is the cabinets. And Mr. Morrill happened to be at Roots Reusables, and we'd asked for a file cabinet, and he called me. This is 2 grants ago. And he said, this doctor just dropped off all this office equipment, and it's locks and it's the real stuff. And so he grabbed it for like $5 a cabinet. And these things are like $1,200 a piece. So when you're seeing this cabinet, you're going, oh, all right. I'm like, yes, $1,195 saved. So we're really excited, and they really get to use the same type of office equipment they would see in a doctor's office. And it opens very differently. It pulls out and lifts up, and then you got to slide it in. And we're able to organize things. So we have 4 cabinets, and this teacher has gone in and just cleaned house and reorganized. So each of these pieces was picked by different teachers in different grants, and then a new teacher would come in and go, that's somebody else's. So our teacher that has come in has gone, no, this is all great stuff. She's pulled it all out of boxes, and I'm going, yes, I spent so much money on that, and now it's here. And the whole half side of the room has transformed, and you look like you're walking into what I envisioned our med lab would look like. And she's cleaned out anything that's, we've had a lot of donations over the year that maybe wasn't appropriate for the program, and that's gone, donated elsewhere or purposed elsewhere. And it really looks fantastic. We have the tables that Mr. Boothby helped us get in there, and the new chairs, and it looks pristine. It looks sterile. It is. They are charged with cleaning that every time they do stuff. But it was a little bit of a shock for me, because we started the phlebotomy first, which they normally work into. So I happened to be in class, because I'm going, I have to watch, because you weren't going to start with that first. But she did a fantastic job. Everybody got blood. And she really monitored closely. She stood right there next to their hands. The level of care and watch supervision was fantastic. I would have stuck my own arm out there immediately, but I'm told they can't till they get their grades. So
If you have any questions about any of that, I'd be happy to answer it. I'm hoping to get full room pictures so you can really get a good look someday when there is not students out there. But one of the big things, this program has probably tripled in price since COVID because gloves went from $25 a box to $75. And without these grants, and there is a real shortage in our local area, triple counties. And we are able to help fill that worker shortage and get people trained. And we wouldn't be able to do that without that grant. The EKG machines were the only thing that was keeping us from going in-house and getting the real rigor that we wanted for students. And I was able to get them down from 25,000 to 13. And they threw in all the card and the paper and the leads, all extra. So we were pretty excited about that. And I have stolen into the CAD lab a couple of times. Tina keeps looking at me Larry. But I did add the attachments where it's weren't there the first night. So you could see the color tubes that they have to memorize. And there's really no way they could do that without color pictures because there's light green and there's aqua and there's dark green. And you really have to see those tubes to see what they're like. And then the final thing is we had our second graduate on Friday. And I'm really proud of this one, of our learning center. She had repeatedly failed at another site and came back to us and said, you know, I really need some help. And she took her final test Friday and she had gotten to the point where she snuck in and didn't tell anyone. She didn't tell her family, nothing. And she was literally, I think you could hear her screaming in the parking lot when she got it. And so we were really excited. We have 2 more that have their last test to take, and we have 3 more starting their tests. So we're pretty excited about that. And there's 2 pathways for HiSET. They can do just ready for work and they can do college ready. And we really try to work hard with our students to see what their goals in life are. And you don't want to make somebody work hours and hours and hours if they're going into a job where they're going to be doing hands-on work. They're maybe going to getting on the job training and moving up on the job and not going to going on to higher academics. It takes just as much skill and just as much work, but it's 2 very different pathways. So we try to work with our students. So some of our students stay a little longer if they're going a different pathway. But we're really excited. It's a couple of, sometimes it's just a very short amount of time. But some of our students have been with us a year and a half, and they're ready this year. So you're seeing a group come in. We're planning about 7 or 8 this year in just the next couple of weeks. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to bring your veins, we're
Next, I've got Andrea Martin.
Good evening. We have been very busy. This time of year is very busy for us. We have students that are taking the alternative assessment right now. They're doing glitches. Everybody's working at 6 students that right now. We've trained our administrators to administer it. We also have been working with our coordinated, getting information from them, kind of trying and brainstorming about next year, how we'll present things. We ended up in being sharing involvement with professional development, spent most of the day with the regular staff, with them. We also did we had some training that's going on for errorless teaching. We did MAT training, which is the elementary safety care training that they did earlier. And so she did training with that. We also were looking at our resources that we have for resource rooms throughout, and we we're looking at our resources and the learning continuum so that they can align and really provide the least restrictive environment to our students so that they could slide into the classroom when they're ready and they also get their remediation. And we have been working with coordinators also talking about really in an IEP meeting, which is very scary, not scary, but often for a parent, it's uncomfortable. There's a lot of jargon going on and whatever, but we talked about formatting questions to get the parents involved in the meeting, knowing that they are a essential team. No one knows their child better than them. We want them part of their child's education. We want them to understand the steps that we're going through. We want them to understand the procedures. And we also want them to brainstorm or discuss what we think is the most appropriate for their child to meet their needs. So that's basically what we've been doing the past few weeks. Do you have any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. Next, we've got Jay here.
I can't help it. Not gonna help me out of it. It's still me, folks.
Great. Well, several of the things have already been mentioned that we've been a part of getting students out to different sites. We partnered with Allison Braley with a recent trip. It was rescheduled from a snow event in December, but to get students up from both middle school and high school to UMaine to see several different labs. They went to the Composite Center. They saw the VME 3D and that's a composite. At VME, they saw the VR that Allison mentioned and augmented reality, and had a chance to see some unique features at the university. And we had a little extra time waiting for the bus. So we were able to add on a physics roadshow, which is a popular demonstration event that they offer. So getting as many students out as we can and fighting for vans with all the other trips going on. So it's been piecing all the opportunities together. We're excited that this week the Southern Maine Community College tour is going to happen. That's what we've been working on for a while. And we previewed that site last summer and have a lot of interesting opportunities for students there. And there was quite a bit of interest. So this, of course, is still a class of 2023 that will qualify for the free tuition next year. So we're getting to as many community college sites as we can to show the range of possibilities. Also did a business field trip recently to WABI, which was a fantastic tour. Brian Sullivan spent a couple hours with the students and introduced them to all the different facets of the producing the news. And that was, we had both a student that goes to HCBC and one that doesn't, that were both interested in sort of behind the scenes of that. So that was great. And had a chance to speak with the sophomore class last week. There is a new opportunity that we're helping promote that you may have heard me before say the Maine Career Exploration Badge, NCEB, is an opportunity for juniors and seniors to earn $500 by getting a 40-hour work experience. That opportunity has been expanded, and as of April 1, it's open to sophomores. So I had a chance to share that with them, let them know how they could do some early career exploration, either this spring or summer, or thinking ahead to next year. And we're continuing on with career chats for students who are one-on-one conversations if they tell us they're interested in a certain field, or bringing in speakers for larger groups. And we participate in opportunities to share out with other groups. So I was able to attend a peer learning session earlier this month with Katie Hunter. It's funded by Melmac, and get ideas from other schools, things we want to bring back for this year and next year. And then last Friday, Jordan was able to go over to Skowhegan, which is one of the other Aspire sites, and share with their school about things that we've been doing here. So there's a lot of communication going on back and forth, and that's all been very positive.
upcoming newsletter comes out this week. Bingo is at the middle school next week. So yeah, maybe you want to play bingo or help out. It's a financial literacy themed bingo and post-secondary. So it'll be words instead of numbers. So we'll be introducing some concepts to students and their families with pizza and prizes next week. And right now we're putting out examples, working with Christina to find examples of books and hands-on materials for classrooms that they can use their Aspire funds for. So those are on display at both Jewett and Miles Lane for the rest of this week, so teachers can say what they like and we'll place their orders. What's happening in our world? Any questions?
Thank you. And that's we got your point.
Are you about to give up on me? There was like 3 seconds left. Yeah. I think a lot of my topics have been out today. We've been talking to the other administrators, also we have the CSI. I'm going to a physical security event the next 2 days, which is going to focus on K-12 cybersecurity, physical security, which we talked about a little bit last time. But really, that's the up and coming topic that, as everyone says, out from this, now from that, and technology of this, and it's everywhere. They can pretty much get my report at this point. So I will present myself if you folks have any specific questions or overall questions for me. That might be a record. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Then that brings us down to calendar and announcements. Do we know when the robotics events were? Dan asked.
The other events. Yes, we have. Oh, yeah. Is next. This weekend is in Portland. And then we have one that they are leaving next Friday. In New Hampshire, and then they have one the weekend before April vacation, which is in Boston. And then they go down. So if they qualify for Worlds and they put their robots in a trailer and tools and all the robots from regionals that qualify for Worlds get shipped down. Yeah, I was wondering. So yeah, so much fun.
It's a logistical base to this whole.
Yeah, so FedEx is still taking the robots for us.
I think it's common carrier. I don't know.
Yeah, it's common carrier.
Well, they're going to have a big trailer at regionals this year. So
But I mean to go to Worlds.
that's what I mean. They're going to have it. So after the regional competition, anybody that's going to Worlds, they're going to have a trailer there that you can load your robot onto. It won't cost us anything and it'll end up down. You don't actually have to send it ahead of time. Like you can actually bring it down to you and risk working on it down there. Nice thing is we're going to show up early, so it does take some severe damage during the regional competition, and we do ship it down on there. We can hopefully get as many tools on there as we can, and then.
I just remember putting it in this giant wooden box the first year.
So you used to have to bag it, put it in a crate, and saying you haven't touched it for so now they just don't.
And we packaged a bunch of tools in there.
Yeah.
And one of the tools was the impact driver. And we put it in, and then we got the box there, and we had no way to get the box apart. So we had in the trip to Home Depot buy another impact driver.
Yeah, I guarantee there'll be something along those lines that will happen. But if that's the least of our problems, I think it's pretty well.
So we'll lose anybody. No.
Perfectly not. I'm usually one of our goals.
Yeah, I'm not just the same people.
Someone has been down that road.
Yeah, that's right. That's right, yeah. So we got curriculum committee on April 13th, 6:30 at central office. We have no policy committee meeting planned. We have finance committee right before the next one of these meetings on April 25th at 5:30, right here. School board meeting will also be on April 25th at 6. Facilities committee, April 13th, 4:30 at central office. Aspire committee also on April 13th, 5:30 at the central office. And our budget workshop is on the 30th.
Thursday, March 30th. That's what we all agreed to, right?
Yes.
Okay. That's what it's gonna be, and I'm sure we'll have others after that, but. Okay.
I move to adjourn. Second. Right, we have a motion and a second. So,
Mr. Foster, Mr. Burgess. Yes. Ms. Foster,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
yes.
Mr. Nealon,
Yes.
Mr. Wentworth. Mr. Cobb.
Yes.
We are adjourned at 7:55 PM.